What's going on, guys? Welcome to the very first MovieFellas, a podcast where two millennials with little to no knowledge of film talk about movies both classic and current. I'm your host, Adam Norris, and as always, my co-host, Matt, quote, hasn't even seen Goodfellas, which is what the name of this podcast is based on in the first place.
And we'll never see Goodfellas.
Rosenberg.
Ever.
It's actually really good and it's worth seeing. What's going on, dude?
Okay. I am doing excellent. How are you, Adam?
I'm busy. Things are good. I guess this being the first question I guess I want to kind of start us off with is, where did this podcast come from? How did this start?
Okay, so for about 1 trillion years, I've been thinking, hey, I'd like to start a podcast, but everyone I know, including you, is really lame and doesn't know anything. No. I always want to start a podcast because I listen to this really, really good podcast, this movie podcast called The Weekly Planet, and they kind of do comic book movies and stuff like that. And they're just hilarious, and it's like my main source of entertainment, that and a couple others. And I'm like, hey, let's throw some ideas out, because film is just like something that I know you love, and we talked about a lot in college. So
yeah, that's right.
It's something that we both really enjoy, and so we're like, dude, I'm like, hey, you want to start a podcast? And you're like, here's like 1 million ideas. And I'm like, okay, all right. You thought more into this than I did, but yeah.
It's actually funny for whoever's listening. The way this actually started was I was at a Christmas breakfast with my brother and sister-in-law. And as we were talking in the middle of the meal, I get a text from Matt saying, hey, Lamo, do you want to start a movie podcast? And the second I read it, usually I was going to have like a stupid comeback, but I was like, that's actually a really good idea. We should totally start doing that.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you said that, I immediately went on my phone to Google Docs and wrote down 5 things that came to mind of how we could do this. So yeah, I guess in terms of what this podcast is about, we are interested in talking about, as I said in the intro, movies classic and current. Right now, we're probably going to just, for this episode, kind of spend our time talking about movies that we've loved throughout the year, some of our personal favorites, and maybe looking forward to movies that are coming out in 2017. Maybe spend different episodes looking at a movie we're going to see. Matt and I will probably take some time for 1 month and go see a movie on our own and then come back and kind of review it for an episode. Just kind of a smattering of different things about film, as it's a pretty good representation of my knowledge because it's kind of all over the place. I don't know about you, but I don't consider myself to be an expert in really anything.
No, you're really dumb, actually.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
That's why I asked you, because I'm like, hey.
Oh, the smarter by comparison. It's like the ugly friend in high school, but for intelligence.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Two idiots just talking about stuff they have no idea about. What can go wrong?
Hey, listen, I've watched 3 Martin Scorsese films, so at this point I know how to be a director.
Oh, wow. My name's Adam.
Be really impressed. Okay, so let's start with Matt, in no particular order. Start with some of your favorite movies. Let's just say 5.
All right. So I got a few things pulled up here on the interwebs, just to give me some of the cast lists in case I forget. All right, so my probably all-time favorite movie, and this is kind of stuck this way for I don't know how long, probably a few years, and it's subject to change with whatever comes out, is Gladiator. I love Gladiator. Ridley Scott's kind of hit or miss for me. He's done, we've all seen Alien, and most of us have seen Gladiator. Won the Academy Award 2000 for Best Picture. I think Crowe won it for Best Actor as well.
And I'm pretty sure Russell Crowe is one of the first things ever memed from that movie. Are you not entertained?
Are you not Actually, that was an idea I had for a podcast name that I was going to say. I wanted to call it the Are You Not Entertained Podcast, but I'm like, that's really long. And then you're like, what about the MovieFellas? I'm like, wait, that's way better. That's a lot easier to remember. And it's just, so we ended up going with that because I never stated that I wanted to name it that until this moment.
So I'll be honest, I actually can hardly remember the general story of Gladiator. I mean, I know the little synopsis is Russell Crowe plays kind of the lead warrior that's kind of imprisoned in Rome, ancient Rome, right? and he has to kind of fight his way out of the Colosseum. Or
all right, so this is what happens. Yeah, so Gladiator, probably my favorite film of all time, came out in 2000. Russell Crowe when he was a sprightly young lass of 30-something years old. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, directed by Ridley Scott. So what happens is Gladiator, Russell Crowe is the gladiator, and he gladiates all around. But how it starts out...
Okay, so let me just make sure for my personal dictionary. Gladiates is a verb. Is it like flying? It sounds like he's flying.
Gladiating. It is the act of gladiating.
That's a way better... They should have called it that. They should have called you first for the title.
No. This is what it should have been called. Gladiator, brackets, the act of gladiating, colon... Gladiator.
Now you're directing a Wes Anderson film.
Yep. Fantastic Mr. Gladiator.
Oh, anyway, that's a good movie. That's actually part of my top 5. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
What the cuss, man.
I know, it's so good.
All right, so this is what happens. So he's the leader of a legion of warriors, right, in Rome, and he's like highly favored because he grew up around the emperor, and he knew the emperor growing up, and it's based on like pseudo history, I guess. Like some of the stuff happened, but the character was made up of Marcus Aurelius. So sorry, hold on, Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Okay.
He's the son. Okay, anyway, I'm getting this all confused. All right, so anyway, he's a good general, and he's like really loyal to the emperor. Well, the emperor dies, and his crazy son, who's played by Joaquin Phoenix, is the one who kills him. Spoiler alert for all these movies, by the way. Most of them came out like numerous years ago.
Like a decade for some of my favorites.
Whoever... The 2 people who might listen to this, go and watch them,
hey, dude,
and then
my
come
mom
back.
will definitely listen to this, so that's at least
great.
3.
Thanks, Adam's mom. Shout out to Adam's mom.
Okay,
all right.
Nope. We're moving on.
All right, so he goes and he has to. He's Joaquin Phoenix is like, bro, you were well loved by the king or the emperor or whatever, so we got to kill you, because he like wants to make him emperor, wants to make Russell Crowe's character emperor. So Maximus Decimus Meridius is his name, and he's all like,
probably wouldn't fit on a credit card, but
listen, all right, there's no discrimination in this podcast.
Right, whatever, just saying.
All right, so he escapes and he goes back to his home. Well, his son and his wife were both burnt and killed, and it's really, really gruesome and really, really just, it's heartbreaking. Anyway, he gets captured by some slavers, and he ends up building up his way in the gladiatorial matches, and he ends up he's so good at fighting, and he has to kind of learn showmanship and learn like how to be a showman and kind of work towards earning his freedom. But like his sole drive, and this whole thing is just like, I need to avenge my family, because he kind of doesn't have anything to live for. That's what he's like striving to do. Well, anyway, he works his way up to the main like Colosseum, and there's a sweet moment where like the emperor, who's the guy who ended up killing the man who loved him and organized killing his family because he hates him and stuff. He's like, he has a mask on, or he has like a helmet that involves a mask. And the emperor's like, you know, who are you, so I can like congratulate you? Because everyone just called him the Spaniard in the ring, because he's a Hispanic Roman guy. Anyway, so he's like, he turns around. He's like, you dare turn your back on the emperor? And so he turns around and he takes off his helmet, and he's like, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, and he like lists who he was in charge of, legion of the whatever, and he goes, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And it's just like, oh. Anyway, he ends up getting his vengeance because they end up doing like a one-on-one battle. And even though he stabs him beforehand, he ends up winning. But on the way, like he dies in the end, and it restores like balance to the Roman Empire and everything like that. So it's just like a super heartfelt ending. And it like you sees flashes of, I guess, kind of like a pseudo afterlife, and like this woman's like go to them, like he's going home to his family as he dies, but it's just a beautifully shot movie, beautifully acted. The script is wonderful, and it's like my favorite film of all time. All right, so I talked for like 20 minutes.
No, you're good. If anything, the way you described the ending, it seemed like Russell Crowe's character wasn't necessarily rewarded for his vengeance, but it was more of a kind of a full circle moment and kind of seeing the result of pursuing vengeance. It kind of in doing so, when it circled back around, it didn't really matter. The Empire was going to continue on. The story will continue, whether or not he was truly successful, which I guess you would say he was. He was successful. He got what he wanted. Even though he died, he got what he wanted.
He got what he wanted, and he also, like, what's cool is, like, he helped restore, like, because he took the power away from, I guess, the political leaders, and he restored it to the people, which is kind of like a tale of democracy almost. Okay. Which I thought was really cool. But that's kind of a subsidiary just to the character of Maximus and like what he does throughout the film, and it's very harrowing on many occasions. There's actually there's like a script you can find online. Someone wrote a script treatment for like a sequel, and it was called Gladiator Christ Killer, where they were supposed to, like, it was like it went all out on like the whole like fantastical elements of the first one, where like you kind of see glimpses of the afterlife, or like they were like the Roman gods hear about like Jesus, who comes and who's like claiming to be God and everything, and they're like, you need to go and like take him out because he's taking all of the power away from us. Mm-hmm. And apparently the script treatment's just horrendous. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, we are so glad this did not get made. And I remember reading it and being like, I am so glad this did not get made.
Yeah.
Because it sounds horrible.
I'm not going to lie, it sounds pretty awkward. And for those of you who may not know, Matt and I both graduated from Johnson University, both with degrees pertaining to ministry and the Bible, so we're not considered experts, but we kind of know what we're talking about a little bit. And pretty much anytime anyone, especially someone outside of Christian faith, tries to put a story from the Bible into film, 9 times out of 10, it is so bad. It is not even close to good. And I don't know what it is. There are some people who get it right. Namely, let's see, Noah just guaranteed. Like, that was the first time I watched a movie about a Bible story.
Good old Darren Aaron.
That's good. That's good. This is actually, we're moving forward. This is good. So yeah, no, honestly, I haven't watched Gladiator in years, so I need to go back and watch it because I barely remember anything besides that stupid meme that everyone knows it for.
Dude, are you not deterred? All right. Let's hear one of yours.
All right, so undisputed number one favorite, because honestly, my number one's pretty much guaranteed, and the rest are just kind of
Transformers: Age of Extinction.
No, the first Transformers was okay because it was a new idea, but then
it was fun. Yeah,
I can't believe another one.
That's it.
Another one's coming out with Wahlberger.
Freaking last night. I mean, he was the only thing in the newest one. I was like, okay, like he's like a nice presence on screen. That is literally the only positive thing I have to say.
I just hope that in the what is it called? The Last Night.
The last night. Yeah.
I hope at some point they eat it a Wahlburger. That's just my personal that would be super good.
What if the MacGuffin of the film, like, you know how it's like the seed or the cube or whatever, they're just walking through and it's in the Wahlburger.
Oh, that would be.
And while the Wahlburgers TV show is playing in the background.
At that point, with that level of meta narrative, I would just walk out of the theater. I'd say, I think I've seen enough. I don't even know how this ends.
I would be so happy. All right.
So undisputed number one, and maybe this is because I'm younger, being 22, and I've only really started watching films since like high school. But my number one,
sprightly man,
no question, is Fight Club, starring Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. And this is why. This is the main reason. It was the ending, which is funny because so many people, tote Fight Club as one of the greatest plot twist endings of all time. But honestly, I mean, as much as there's hype and people who love it, it blew my mind because I watched it. Let's see, it came out in 1999, and I saw it. I want to say, freshman year of high school. So it had been out for a while, and most people, it was a part of modern culture. But as a high schooler, I had never even heard of the movie when I watched it. It was funny. It was actually assigned as a part of my introduction to psychology course my freshman year of high school, talking about dissociative identity disorder and a few other kind of mental illnesses that this movie takes some influence from. And for those of you, once again, spoiler alert, if you want to mute it real quick.
Go watch the movie.
Yeah, go watch it, honestly. But spoiler alert, you find out that Brad Pitt's character and Edward Norton's character are actually one and the same person. So you find out that Tyler Durden, who is played by Brad Pitt, kind of the crazy anarchist character of the film, pushing the narrative forward, and you have the narrator, who is Edward Norton, but you find out he is Tyler Durden. I know, you're like, what? And honestly, the whole film, I spent the entire film thinking I was super smart and I was intelligent and I knew exactly where the movie was going, and I was getting bored. And of course, in the last act, when Edward Norton, who's the narrator of the story, his character's running around trying to figure this out, in the third act, it's revealed that they're the same person. My head just exploded. I went, that's why, because for those of you who know, I'll walk you through the plot real quick. The narrator who's telling you the story, Edward Norton's character, is this... he's an automobile recall specialist, which is fancy for whenever there's like a horrible car accident, his job is to prove the automobile industry is not at fault. So that's like he's already kind of
how terrible of a job would that be?
Person just to begin with, and he suffers from insomnia. He cannot sleep.
Ma'am, your 4 children died in a fiery explosion, but it wasn't our fault.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you this, but yeah. So he suffers also from insomnia, and he talks about the fact that he hasn't slept in days. And in kind of a weird turn of events, he ends up joining support groups where he fakes illnesses, he fakes cancer, he fakes depression, anything that can make him a part of the group. And what he discovers is when he joins these support groups and he emits these fake emotions, he's relieved so greatly that he's able to sleep again. So he develops a relationship with a woman who starts attending the same support groups as him, and she's doing the exact same thing. He thought he was on his own. So they end up arguing over it, and they ended up like kind of divorced parents determining custody. They each determine which support groups they can fake attend and kind of get their emotional catharsis out. It's such a weird story.
It's crazy. It really is a weird story.
It's such a good story, though. There's a lot of metaphor and a lot of stuff in it. That'd be a whole episode. That'd be like 5 episodes.
Right. Like, I mean, it's got that coming of age kind of feel too, and like I guess you're supposed to empathize with the narrator. Like, he's like the everyman kind of guy.
I mean, yeah, they portray him as that kind of someone who is a slave to materialistic consumerism. He constantly, they joke around where his entire living room is filled with furniture from IKEA and a catalog from Sky Mall, and yet he has never used but like one piece of this $10,000 of furniture. And this story's kind of flowing, it makes sense. And then you introduce Tyler Durden, who is Brad Pitt's character, and you will know it's him immediately because of how strangely he dresses for the style of the late 90s. In usually neon colored clothing and like aviator sunglasses and
then George Michael's playing in the background.
Pretty much every time he shows up.
Rest in peace, George Michael. By the way, that's so sad.
This is a sad year.
It really is, man.
But introducing Tyler Durden to the mix kind of makes things even more confusing and weird. Tyler starts inviting Edward Norton's character into these weird adventures. Quick example. Tyler invites Edward Norton's character to raid a liposuction factory for free human fat to make soap with, because Tyler Durden is a soap salesman. You're not. Dude,
you haven't done that before.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't go and just steal
you're
fat?
Missing out.
It's pretty cool.
You're missing out, bro.
It makes chicken taste way better.
I tell you what.
Well, as the story continues, the relationship between Tyler Durden and the narrator, Edward Norton's character, kind of grows. They end up moving in together. They end up starting the namesake of the film, a fight club, as another form of catharsis for their emotions and a way to kind of get out anger. And no, hold on, Matt, I will get to it.
All right.
And this is probably one of the most quoted scenes from Fight Club, is when they have the first Fight Club, and there is
the first
rule
rule
of Fight Club is to
not talk about Fight Club.
What's the second rule of Fight Club?
I can't remember,
It's to not
but
talk
I know
about
the
Fight
first
Club.
one. And so you're breaking it.
Exactly. So that's kind of the irony of talking about this movie, is you're not allowed to talk about the movie. But the Fight Club turns into it goes from being just a few guys punching each other in a fun kind of like fake boxing arena to an entire city practically of men and women are coming downtown to this Fight Club to kind of get out all of their anxiousness, their anger, all this pent up aggression. And it progresses as a story. Its pacing is one of its strongest elements. It grows not only into fight clubs across the nation. Tyler Durden convinces Edward Norton's character to actually start a society. I mean, it's an underground society of people who Fight Club is the introduction, but then it turns into, and I got to make sure, Project Mayhem. Which, if you thought it was already weird enough, they end up turning into this kind of urban terrorist group where they're kidnapping politicians, they're blowing up buildings, they're killing people in the name of kind of tearing apart democracy and the government. And remember, by the time you get to this point, these characters are so cemented in who they are and they're so separated. Edward Norton's character is always kind of the voice of reason. Tyler Durden's is always the voice of kind of craziness. Well, by the end, when it's revealed that they're the same person and Edward Norton's fits of insomnia are actually his personality shifting into Tyler, the entire movie, the way you understand it, is changed forever. And so when you go back to the beginning, it's one of those just kind of rewatchable movies where every time you watch it, now you can see where there were moments where Edward Norton was literally just talking to himself.
Right. And you don't realize it until like,
the
you
end.
Rewatch it from that perspective.
And I guess that's for me what solidifies as my number one is any movie that you can watch multiple times. And I'm talking like I've watched it probably 45, 50 times at this point. I still enjoy it with the same kind. I'm not joking. I enjoy it with the same kind of like enthusiasm as the first time, especially when I have more people. I introduce more people to it. It makes it just as fun. So I probably talk forever, but yeah, that's easily my number one.
It is a great movie, and I haven't seen it since I was probably like 16.
It's so good.
I feel like I can't I need to rewatch it just so I can appreciate it more.
Yeah, and it's one of David Fincher. He's the director. I'm sure people know David Fincher now from things like what's the my goodness,
Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Zodiac.
What's the political show with Kevin Spacey?
House of Cards,
especially for the Netflix people out there. David.
Yeah, everyone loves House of Cards. I've heard it's great.
It's a good show.
I haven't gotten into it yet.
Yeah, because
he did 7.
Yep, 7.
What's in the box?
Yeah, 7 would probably be my top 10. But
okay, cool.
But yeah, Fincher's definitely, his directing style is very artificial, but somehow it's at the same time very artistic, which is hard to pull off without kind of being awkward. But
okay.
But yeah, all right. You want to name another film you like, Matt?
All right. Okay, can it be a series or no? It has to be one film.
I don't think we're really holding ourselves to any kind of standard with this, so go for it.
I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'll decide.
That's right.
Actually, I'm not even going to go with the series next. All right, so this movie was like, people were like, yeah, it's pretty good, or I didn't really understand it when it came out. And we both, I think I can speak for both of us, we're both pretty big Chris Nolan fans.
Yes, very big Chris Nolan. Yeah. Oh, here we go. I'll let you say it. I have my guess.
You ready for my pseudo intellectual?
The irony of saying that is even better.
See, I'm not gonna. Okay, so and it's not even Inception.
I know
Inception is great.
No, it's not.
Top 10. All right, Interstellar.
Of course, yeah.
And here's the thing.
Interstellar.
All right, so
dude, you gotta have a certain level of intelligence to vibe with that movie.
All right, listen, you do. No, and the thing. All right, so I saw it IMAX opening day with like this sweet sound system.
I'm sure.
It was in downtown Knoxville, or no, it was in Turkey Creek. Anyway, so
Wait, was it the
I had
Regal?
heard, like,
was it the Regal Pinnacle over in Turkey Creek near the mall? Yeah,
and the IMAX
sweet
is
theater.
sweet there, dude.
Yeah.
But so, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, just go watch it. Like, you
Pretty much any of these top fives are worth watching, like, tonight.
Yeah, like at least once. And I know why people didn't, like, a lot of people who are like, yeah, it was pretty good, or it didn't really make much sense. But that's the thing, like, Interstellar is first of all, it's such a visual, like, journey.
Yep.
Like, you sit down in a dark room and make sure you have it on Blu-ray or it's in, like, high def, but just watch it and sit 5 feet away from the screen and just, like, intake all of this. Anyway, cast is amazing. Matthew McConaughey, obviously, everyone's great.
Yep.
Everyone's great in it. But the story is, all right, so Earth is dying, blah, 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 blah. They're running out of something. All right, so the corn's not really reproducing anymore. Earth is kind of dying. People think it's on the up, but it's really back on the down, according to the scientists. And Michael Caine's all like, you need to go to the space to find another planet to go for us to live. And so
Certainly not the worst
Matthew McConaughey's like, all right, that is the best impression of Michael Caine anyone's ever. And Matthew McConaughey's like, I don't know if I need to do. He's like, I got a family. I'm not sure if I can't do Matthew McConaughey. Anyway, so he's like, all right. So he's like a pilot. And so they see this wormhole, and NASA, like the remnants of NASA, finds a wormhole, and he's like, that's not a naturally occurring thing. And Anne Hathaway's character is like, they put it there. And Matthew McConaughey's like, who's they? So anyway, they go out, and they had sent probes back, and they had kind of figured out that there were certain planets that were habitable within reach. And so he's like, listen, you have a daughter, you have a son, go out there and find for them a planet that their children, or, you know, their children's children will be able to live on. You know, kind of, this is the most important thing. Also, Kip Thorne, who's an astrophysicist, was on set, like, all the time, like, as, like, a scientific consultant or whatever. And there's a lot of pseudoscience stuff in here, but, you know, it's a science fiction film, so blah, 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 blah. That happens, you know. Anyway, so he goes out, and they have to find things. But, the scene I think that sticks with me the most is, so they go, and they have to go into this suspended sleep thing or whatever. They're frozen. They're not frozen, but it's like a hyper sleep, you know.
Hey,
like,
did you know that
Star
Kip
Trek.
Thorne actually, after the movie was released a book as a follow-up to the movie?
I did hear
It's
about
called
that,
The Science
but I
of
haven't read
Interstellar.
it. Yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't read it. Have you read it?
Honestly, no. People seem to like it.
Okay.
And it was interesting enough that he actually included quotations from McConaughey, Hathaway, and Chastain as kind of
Really? Okay.
characters in the midst of it, and what they kind of learned from him as a reference point. I guess
Right.
referencing, or I can't think of it. They represented the average listener, or the average viewer, someone who didn't really know anything going into Interstellar. Which for
Right.
me was,
Okay.
was probably one of the only things I didn't like about Interstellar. Was a lot of the time, its writing and its rhetoric got a little too steeped in being accurate, and not as much of immersion for the viewer.
Right.
And it's tough, because it was like it's not good if he didn't, and it's not good if he did. It's something that's so complicated that
Well, and I think
it's hard to encapsulate in the way that's simple and immersive.
See, there are flaws in the, like, I will concede on a lot of films, like, I like that there are a lot of flaws in them, but I don't care.
Oh, no.
I like them
I
because,
wasn't bringing that up as like a point of contention.
Yeah,
It's just,
you know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying though. Like, you like a film because, and this is how it was for Interstellar. Like, where I was at in life, being in school and kind of, you know, figuring things out as an adult or whatever. I kind of just, like, I saw Interstellar, and it was like this massive journey. And anyway, so the scene I was talking about, he goes into hypersleep.
That's right.
And he comes back out like 8 years later, or no, I think it's like 8 years later. And then this happens numerous times where he goes into hypersleep and then he comes back out. Anyway, so years and years and years pass, and they get sent videos from Earth
of their family and people
their family.
Yeah.
And so it's like 2 months for him, right? But he's seeing his daughter become a woman and his son have a family.
Yep.
And like his daughter kind of resents him for leaving, and she kind of holds on to that resentment, and that's what causes her to kind of become this really intelligent scientist and try and figure out how to save Earth. And he's like Matthew McConaughey he sells it like nobody's business.
That was a great casting choice. He was
such a good scene.
He was the perfect protagonist for that movie.
Yeah, he was, and I know a lot of people. I know you probably have, like, a lot of people have reservations with it's the only thing that matters is love or whatever.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Anne Hathaway did great up until that point. I was like, well, it's fun while it lasted for, because it felt like it at that moment the movie said, you know what, we've been very scientific, very factual,
and then it kind of.
But you know what's cool? Love, transcending and going beyond three dimensions. And I was like, okay, hold on.
It's gravity. All right, it's gravity and love.
It's gravity and love is all you need to live.
Best things.
Somehow you need both to not
anyway,
die.
So I get why people didn't like that scene. For all of those who haven't seen it, you shouldn't be listening to this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So Anne Hathaway falls in love with one of the other astronauts who like is the one who's sent through the wormhole before them.
Yep.
And she's in love with him, and she keeps trying to push for them to go to this planet where he's at. And Matthew McConaughey's like, well, there's a better chance for this to be there or this to be there. Well, it ends up that the planet that he was on was the best planet, and where she ends up, and where like it ends up being.
So that's where the film ends for her, right? I mean, it's her.
Yeah,
on
well, that's where the film ends completely.
Man's planet, is that right? Or am I getting that wrong?
No, I think Dr. Man is Matt Damon.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Edmonds.
Yeah, Matt Damon's in this film.
Edmonds is the stop and the planet where Anne Hathaway's character ends up by the end. But
and it's also like, and I'll wrap it up. But like, just go watch it if you haven't seen it. Just go watch it, because it is such a journey, and like it proves like what would you say, like the triumphant human spirit, kind of like we're like, I remember the trailers is like Matthew McConaughey like mumbling like, we'll find a way.
Yeah, kind of that. I mean, it harkens back to the American sense of rugged individualism, like you are capable of saving the world, which is a crazy.
Even though Christopher Nolan's a Brit.
Yeah, well, even though he's a Brit, but the fact that that's accomplished in a way that not just through superhero movies, which is where you usually see that, Superman being a good example of that. That one person can save the world. Well, really, Matthew McConaughey's character is a very flawed, imperfect person, Cooper. And yet, despite all of that, he was able to do incredible things and ended up, well, spoiler alert, he ends up saving the day, and Earth is able to find a new home thanks to him.
And it kind of does, like, it wraps it together almost too perfectly. Like he does, he ends up, like, they end up solving gravity or whatever it is, and it ends up being that the beings who put the wormhole there were actually them, like, humanity, like, evolved to a fifth dimension or something, or like like so far beyond. And so
from the beginning to end, humanity was kind of the driving part of the plot, even when you didn't know it. They were ultimately influencing the entire story, which is...
I'm sorry, Kip Thorne is actually a theoretical physicist, not an astrophysicist.
Yeah, it's all the same.
I was wrong. But anyway, go see it. And it does wrap together really well. Like, he ends up living, but his daughter's like 100-something years old. And he gets to see her, but she kind of has a family of her own at this point. And Matthew McConaughey ends up going back to the planet where they're going to live. But Jonathan Nolan, Chris Nolan's brother, originally, his original script treatment was like he dies.
Yep.
Like he died, and
I mean, honestly, I was kind of expecting that. I was a little.
I was expecting that as well. So I'm kind of glad they went in and like, okay, like, let's just give some hope, because a lot of sci-fi, a lot of the main characters do die, like. A lot of people die, and
well, I mean, with most movies where you have kind of an intense male protagonist. It's just kind of an expectation that he's going to be the Christ-like figure that sacrifices it all at the end to save everyone, which I got no problem with, but it does get a little bit trite, gets a little bit boring. So it was neat that they found a way to see him sacrifice everything for the sake of humanity and still be rewarded, and that he gets to see everything he did, which was overall just it was really good movie. Go see it.
It's very satisfying. Yes. Go watch it. It is
a good example of just a great movie. So I guess for me now, the rest of my top 5 is just kind of relative. Let's see. Let's go with, this is definitely a current film. I think I want to say it came out not even a year ago. Let's see if you'll guess this. It earned someone an Oscar that should have gotten an Oscar years prior, but...
Ex Machina.
Try The Revenant.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. You kidding me, man?
Really? I know. I like The Revenant. It's good. Dude, the pacing is...
Listen. All right.
It's a slog, man. Hold on. It's a great film,
a journey,
but
and that's the whole point.
Okay, man.
So...
I like it. Like, I watched it, and I enjoyed it, but I'm like... Unless someone begs me, I will never watch that again.
That makes me so sad because I've watched it like 10 times. Okay, so
tell everyone what it's about.
The Revenant,
all the 2 people listening.
I know it's interesting. So The Revenant is actually based on a work of nonfiction, a historical book telling the journey of a trapper named Hugh Glass, and this was during, I want to say, early 19th century? Yeah, 1820. It's 1820s. So at this point, where they're at in the U.S., there's kind of Midwest, closer to Canada territory. So you have a lot of involvement of Native Americans, French, and we'll just call them Americans, the Americans.
The darned Americans.
And the story of The Revenant follows a man by the name of Hugh Glass, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, which I will go on to say earned him an Oscar for best lead actor, finally. But the general story of The Revenant finds Hugh Glass, who's a trapper, his group, as they're returning from a journey of collecting pelts, because that's what trappers do, they collect pelts to sell them for money. As they're journeying back...
They do?
Hugh Glass by himself, in the morning, he encounters a bear in the wild. And this isn't just an average bear. This is a very large grizzly, a mother grizzly at that, meaning she's very territorial. So
he sees the cub at first, right?
That's what tips him off.
And then he's like, oh, crap. And then, dude, that scene, oh, man, that is visceral. Yeah, it's good. Hard to watch.
I know, that's why it's good.
You're like,
Well, anyway, all that to say, Hugh is very much so messed up. Like, the bear ends up somehow not killing Hugh. He ends up just mortally wounding him, tearing his back open, slashing his jugular open, clawing at his stomach. I mean, the number of injuries probably is longer than the credits of actors in the film. But his team, seeing Hugh Glass, they save Hugh. We'll call it saving. They kind of do first aid, and at first they say, he's gonna die. We'll just leave him. Well, Hugh's son, who is actually a mixed child of a Native American Pawnee.
He's half Native American, right? Yeah. He's partially off the show Parks and Recreation.
I know. As soon as I said that, you're gonna say that. But his son comes to his aid and says, don't leave him behind. We can make it work. And kind of the other main character of the story, his name is Jonathan Fitzgerald.
Is that Domhnall Gleeson's character?
No, that is Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Oh, yeah, okay.
And Tom Hardy kind of represents the other main character, which we will find at some point. He is the antagonist of the film. He is kind of the voice of reason. He is constantly at the beginning kind of trying to convince the team, hey guys, it's not worth carrying Hugh all this way back to the territory or back to the city where we're from. Let's just kill him now. Let's end it. It's a mercy killing at worst.
Isn't there like money involved?
Yeah, there's money involved.
Like he's like, you'll get a certain amount of money if you blah blah blah.
Let's see.
Domhnall Gleeson's character is like, I'll give you this much money if you take care of him and bring him back.
He's the captain of the team. He is the military captain who was leading the team to get the pelts.
Okay.
And at one point they reach kind of an impasse, and it seems that they can't continue further. It's the middle of winter. It's in the teens, the 20s. It is freezing cold, and the team finally admits we cannot carry Hugh any further. And so, like Matt was referencing, the captain says, if a few people are willing to stay behind and see to it that he gets home, there'll be money involved, and you'll be appreciated. So Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy, and let's see, Jim Bridger, which is just a young teenage boy, imagine just kind of an annoying senior in high school. They decide to stay behind and help Hugh along with his son. And after not even a day, it is revealed that Fitzgerald is certainly the antagonist, because he wants to scam the captain, and by killing Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Hugh, they can just go back and just get free money. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, be like, hey, well, we
tried our best, but he died. Sorry. And kind of taking
Yep.
advantage of the situation. Well, this is where it just starts getting tragic. Hugh's half-Pawnee son, Hawk, comes to his aid and
Pratt,
sees...
Andy Dwyer.
Hawk sees that Fitzgerald is killing Leonardo's character, and he tries to call for help, but... And just like one of the most intense scenes of the movie, Leonardo's son, Hawk, is stabbed in front of him. And he is powerless to do absolutely nothing. He is tied to...
Because he
can't even move his body.
Or whatever.
He's pretty much breathing. He can see things and he can breathe. Just to kind of speed things up, the real journey of the movie is Hugh Glass actually surviving the winter, not only surviving it, but actually making the journey by himself across a couple states worth of territory back to the city where he was from originally, and it ends up turning into a tale of revenge where Hugh Glass's only goal is to see to it that Fitzgerald is punished for the murder of his son. It's actually one of my favorite ways to ever tell a theme in the story. Any moment where Hugh believes he's going to die, you can see him writing the phrase, Jonathan Fitzgerald killed my son. Which is just, to consider that as the only thing you want to leave behind. It attributes just kind of the strength and integrity of Hugh's character.
Like how much like vengeance he wanted.
It's very intense.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
Not quite as intense as him. The Princess Bride is way better. But moving forward, Hugh makes it back to the city where they're originally from. He tracks down Fitzgerald. He gets the revenge he deserves. And in kind of a very poetic fashion, Fitzgerald's character, right as Hugh is about to kill Fitzgerald, he looks up and says, "You got the revenge you got. Was it worth it?" And as he's about to kill him, you can see that he was ready to finally do the deed. But in an act of kind of poetic justice, earlier on in the film, Fitzgerald had shown his hair to another character that he had been partially scalped by a Pawnee Indian. And only halfway, so he only lost half his hair. Well, as this fight is taking place, a group of Pawnee Indians stumble upon the fight. And in order to get the full poetic justice in the moment, Hugh says, revenge is in the creator's hands. And so he ships Fitzgerald down the water to the Pawneeans, where they finish the job they started, and they scalp him to his death.
And then Back in Black by AC/DC plays.
Yeah, you wish it was that positive. And what makes the ending of the film so good is that in a lot of ways, the true reward for vengeance wasn't really satisfying. And that makes the movie, the length of it, so intense, and you get so emotionally invested in what you're watching that by the end you go, holy cow, like, I'm glad he got what he wanted, but really I don't even feel that much better for him as a viewer. And I think that's reflected in the final shot, the final kind of establishing shot of Leonardo's character looking in the screen, just kind of thinking, and you don't see any look of satisfaction or happiness. It just kind of ends with, well, he's not dead. So for me, a lot of the strength of the movie well, I guess the weakness, I'll go ahead and admit, and I will concede, Matt, the pacing is very, very slow. And in some ways, you could argue that it's for the sake of the actual story, that, neither did they kind of speed up his journey of crossing hundreds of miles of territory, but at the same time, you're like, hey, man, we didn't need to see the part where he, rips a fish open and eats it for 15 minutes. And I will admit,
it felt like...
Yeah, there was some editing that could have happened, but...
It felt like almost like... You know how in the old James Bond, and again, one of my favorite podcasts talks about this, but in the old James Bond films, if someone's like, Mr. Bond, do you have a call? And the camera pans to Bond getting up, and then Bond walking through a hallway, and then slowly picking up, and now in today's cinema, it would be someone saying you have a call, and then you'd see him at the phone.
It. There's no time wasted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think Inarritu, right? Yeah. Inarritu directed it.
Inarritu.
Directed Birdman,
yep.
yeah. I feel like he did that on purpose to kind of, it made it seem like an old kind of Jeremiah Johnson, kind of new version of Jeremiah Johnson, like a revenge kind of. And so I think that worked at what he was looking for. It's just me personally. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's slow.
But now that you're talking about it, I'm like, maybe I want to go back in.
I'm telling you, yes, it's slow, but man, I will tell you what. Oh man, it's a great movie. I made the mistake though of seeing it a few weeks after it came out with a group of friends who we had went out to just kind of like a pub and had some beers, and we decided to go see that at 9:30 at night.
So you were real tired,
all of us were pretty tired, and it was a group of 8 or 9 of us, and not even 20 minutes into the film, half the people were asleep. Just sleeping, because it is a beautiful. I mean, it's very quiet. A lot of places, but don't let that fool you. There is plenty of action, and honestly, the one shot that takes place in the opening act is one of the greatest shots in all of cinema. And
it is beautiful, and they used all natural light, right?
Not
Except
only natural light, but actually
scene...
every part of the story was shot in chronological order.
Right.
So filming did not take a month or 2 months; it took 9 months.
Yeah. So you had to. I'm sure the actors really felt that. They're like, oh my gosh.
Actually, Inarritu, when he was being interviewed about the process of making that movie, he said, yeah, if people were happy, having coffee and getting ready to take a shot for this movie, he goes, that's when I knew it wasn't going to be good. And I was like, all right. So his goal was everyone will be miserable. And that comes through. I mean, man, Hardy, all of the actors it was the perfect blend of method and just kind of your standard acting, and very, very well done. There are a few other themes, some other characters I kind of glossed over, but great movie. Well,
awesome. All right, you want to do one more just real quick each?
I'm thinking actually we got about 10 minutes or so. Let's talk about a movie in 2017 we absolutely want to see, and maybe a little bit about it, why, all that fun stuff.
Only one?
Just pick a couple if you got one.
Okay. All right. Obviously, Star Wars Episode 8. By the way, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. I cried yesterday. I was so sad. And that's just. I think that's a part of
that's a part of culture dying. I mean, honestly, that is part of the 80s. I mean, late 80s just kind of going away.
And we're both I'm 23, Adam's, so we're both younger, but still I grew up watching Star Wars, and it's she was a great screenwriter, and so rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. That's super sad.
But Star Wars Episode 8, which by the way, with 8, it's been confirmed all of her scenes have been shot. So
so she will be fully in
8, which I think will add kind of another a layer of quality and just kind of intensity to her character. Because I believe that was her final role, considering.
Yeah. Yep, I guess that's true. Man, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Obviously, Star Wars Episode 8. Super stoked about that. Big Star Wars fan. I'm excited to see all the Marvel movies. I'm a huge Marvel Cinematic Universe fan.
Which will come through very clearly.
Yes.
Future episodes, I'm sure.
Yes. Guardians is one of the movies I was going to talk about. But Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. Thor is my favorite superhero of all time. And the last 2 Thor movies were good, but There wasn't like they were fine. I enjoy the first Thor a lot, but second Thor's like it's it wasn't bad, but anyway, so all those movies, and I'm really excited for Lego Batman because I loved the Lego movie. I loved it.
Did you know that Zach Galifianakis will be voicing the Joker?
The Joker, yes.
I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird.
Okay, Billy D. Williams is voicing Two-Face.
Really?
And Billy D. Williams, yes, he played Harvey Dent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In Batman and Batman Returns, and they were like, oh yeah, we're totally going to hire you for Two-Face. And then they cut him and hired Tommy Lee Jones.
What? Tommy Lee, that's a weird choice.
You don't remember that?
No, I never heard of that.
Oh, dude, yeah, Batman Forever, Batman Forever. Tommy Lee Jones plays Two-Face, and Jim Carrey plays the Riddler, and it is horrendous. Oh, it's such a bad movie. It's the Joel Schumacher Batman after Tim Burton left. But anyway, I'm so excited for that. It looks hilarious. So,
and let's see, my first movie I'm stoked to see in 2017. It's definitely going to be Cars 3.
Yes!
Honestly, the trailer for that absolutely destroyed any idea of even me wanting to see it, because I was like, are they really trying to make Cars edgy? But
I really enjoyed the first Cars. Second Cars was blah.
Well, in all seriousness, I think my number one most highly anticipated movie of 2017 will definitely go to John Wick Chapter 2. No question about that.
I still haven't seen John Wick, dude.
I will literally forward you the entirety of Matt, you have no idea. For those of you who haven't seen John Wick, the first one, it's Keanu Reeves, and what I would consider to be probably one of his best roles in the last 5 years, or even since The Matrix, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Right.
Very well done movie. What I guess the main strength of it is it's very graphic and real in its action, especially in the fact that the producers and those who kind of choreograph the action for the scenes all said, he is another human being just like anyone else. When he needs to reload, he's going to reload. When he gets hurt, he will not be perfectly fine. And so that kind of caught my attention a lot. It was just going back and seeing it for the second and third time. I was like, man, literally every scene when he shoots 7 bullets of his seven bullet clip, he reloads, and they kind of use that awkward time to establish something else that he's doing that's really cool.
Right.
So I'm interested to see if they kind of repeat that, if they start adding in some more different, I don't know how to describe it, I guess movie magic kind of moments where they start getting a little bit more unrealistic, kind of getting into the
more action
more just
movie-esque.
intensity, kind of not quite Michael Bayhem, but
Right.
So
that's a good term.
You've never heard of Bayhem?
I've never heard of Michael Bayhem. I'm going to use it for so long now.
Well, quick plug to the greatest YouTube channel ever. It's called Every Frame a Painting. He's a producer and editor who lives in Vancouver, the creator of the channel, and one of his videos is where I got it from. It's called What is Bayhem? And he kind of explains
hilarious.
a lot of the directing style and some of the copycats that have arisen and why Bayhem can only do Bayhem and no one else can really do it the same way. And for my money, second favorite movie, this one isn't as well thought out, is going to be Triple X Return of Xander Cage.
Yes, Xander Cage! What's his name? Crap. Vin Diesel is 50 years old and rollerblading down the freeway.
I cannot believe that's actually happening.
Listen, I love Vin Diesel.
Such a last-second power grab for money.
But it's hilarious to see this 50-year-old man who's clearly still in very good shape, but rollerblading, dude, this looks hilarious.
But okay, second most anticipated film of 2017, definitely gonna go to Logan. Very excited about Logan.
Yeah. I'll give that to you.
For those of you who don't know, Logan is a continuation of the Wolverine kind of reboot storyline of the X-Men universe. And at this point in Logan, I don't want to talk about it much, but it's based off of the comic series called Old Man Logan.
It's very, very loosely based because they don't own a lot of the rights to Hulk and Hawkeye and everything
just enough
that.
for the story and kind of the environment.
Yeah.
It's set in the pretty far future for the X-Men universe. So far that Logan, or Wolverine, he actually begins to lose his superpowers and his ability to regenerate. So he begins to age, and we find him as kind of a awkward mid to late 50s kind of dad looking guy, taking care of Professor X, who was originally pretty intense guy, and sadly he's like decrepit. He's old. He's not only in a wheelchair, but he can't move pretty much. So it I don't know. It's
gonna follow the X-23 storyline.
Yeah, where all the mutants are gone.
Which is all the mutants are gone in like X-23, which is the little girl. If you watch the trailer, she's a little girl who's like with him. She's like a carbon copy of Wolverine.
She's like a clone.
And
Yep. And I guess for me, any kind of darker tone X-Men movie has been some of my favorites. So,
what did you think? Did you see Apocalypse?
Yeah, I saw Apocalypse.
I didn't love it. I thought it was kind of big and dumb.
It was meh. It wasn't bad, but
I really enjoyed
Days of Future Past.
I thought that was excellent.
Absolutely, like that.
Very well done.
Honestly, the kind of the rebooted storyline where you have not the original actor playing X, but of course I'm going to forget his name now. Famous actor.
Mm-hmm. Who?
Oh my goodness, this is gonna.
What's he in?
James McAvoy. That's it. McAvoy's Professor X, and that whole storyline with Fassbender, amazing. I mean, it started with what was the original one? It was
First Class was like the reboot.
First Class, Days of Future Past. All of those have just been nothing but home runs for that studio. So.
And then Apocalypse came along, and like they brought Bryan Singer back, and it's like, dude, you've done too many X-Men movies. Move on, do something else with your life. Felt like but I'm excited for Logan too.
Logan's gonna be good. I have a good feeling about that.
James Mangold did you see the Wolverine? Oh, yeah. Okay. See, I really enjoyed the Wolverine, so I'm excited he's back to do Logan.
Once again, of that trilogy, I thought the Wolverine, like the startup of that reboot, was the best. But that's once again just personal.
X-Men Origins?
No, not that. No. Sorry. No, X-Men Origins was just, whoo, doggy. That is a whole episode of why that might be one of the worst movies ever made. But
it's not. Yeah,
we don't even need to talk about Deadpool. But man, what a terrible movie. But yeah, and if there's any other film that's kind of catching my attention in 2017, it's going to be the movie version of The Dark Tower, which is a Stephen King novel. It has Idris Elba.
Idris Elba, right?
I'm more interested to see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be bad, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to be good. It's more of a...
Is he playing the antagonist or the protagonist? Mm-hmm. Okay. See, I haven't read them. Have you?
I've read The Dark Tower years ago. I'm trying to think. When did it come out? I can't remember. Because there's a whole collection based around it now, and it's a lot of it's kind of a mixture of Wild West meets future meets steampunk kind of stuff.
Matthew McConaughey's the villain. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
So I feel good. Great. I feel like this is going to be one of the first Stephen King. I can't think of the word, adaptations that will actually get people's attention. I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. Yeah, that looks good, dude. I'm excited. All right, so I guess we're kind of coming to a close. All right. One thing I want to say, I want to close with, I will be watching John Wick no matter what this week.
Good.
That's what I'm going to be watching. Good. Yeah, because I like the way I've heard it and the way I've heard it described. I'm just, all right, I'm watching it. Make sure I watch it.
I'll text
me like halfway through the week and be like, watch it.
So anyway, just closing out. For those of you who may have actually, I'd be very impressed to see who tuned in for the entire thing. But for those of you who did, thank you for sticking around. Right now, our kind of release schedule is going to be about once a month. If you want to see more, if you want to hear more, shoot stuff our way. What's our Gmail, Matt?
It is MovieFellas Podcast.
That's right. MovieFellas Podcast at gmail.com for questions, ideas, topics, whatever. This is pretty informal. If you have any ideas you want to shoot our way or movies that are worth watching or for us to talk about, next month, I believe we're going to just kind of watch a movie. I think it will be the Lego Batman. I think we decided.
Is that next month? I think that's in February.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah. You're right. Well,
we'll do something next month.
Yeah, next month. Yeah, well, we're probably going to watch a movie, going to talk about it, but we'll see where it goes from here. Yeah. Thanks you.
Check us out on Facebook.
That's right.
MovieFellas Podcast, Facebook, our YouTube channel. We're getting stuff up. We're just starting out. Again, this is real informal. It's just we're wanting to have some fun. And if you got any questions, if you're still listening to this, just shoot us an email, and I'm going to get us also a Twitter too whenever we get that figured out. But we're going to throw this up on YouTube and probably SoundCloud too. Anyway, thanks guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
Peace out.